Let's get started with our first news. Ian Garry has made headlines after boldly claiming that Leon Edwards should retire from mixed martial arts. The shocking statement came in the aftermath of a rough skid for the former welterweight champion. According to Garry, Leon's recent performances show that he's no longer at the top of his game, and that it might be time to hang up the gloves for good. Leon Edwards, once regarded as one of the most technically sound and dominant welterweights in the UFC, lost his title in devastating fashion to Belal Muhammad. What made it worse was how decisive the loss was. Then, as if that wasn't enough, Edwards was submitted in his very next bout by rising contender Sean Brady. That submission loss, combined with the championship defeat, seems to have convinced Garry that Edwards is no longer a real threat in the division. Speaking to the media, Ian Garry didn't hold back. He said, "If I was Leon, I'd be retiring. He clearly doesn't have the love for it anymore. Clearly doesn't have the talent for it against the best young youth of the division. Just kick it in, say you were a world champion, and go off into the streets of Birmingham. Tell the people the story of what was, not what is." That statement hit hard. Garry wasn't just talking about Edwards' fighting skills. He was questioning his heart, his motivation, and even his legacy. According to Garry, Edwards isn't just slowing down. He's completely lost the edge that once made him the top man at 170 pounds. And in a division stacked with young, hungry killers, that can be the kiss of death. From Garry's perspective, sticking around too long does more harm than good. Fighters who once stood tall often end up tarnishing their legacy by refusing to walk away at the right time. He believes Edwards is now walking that line, risking turning his world championship reign into just a distant memory rather than a lasting legacy. He's urging Edwards to quit while he still has something to celebrate before it's completely taken away by the new blood. Of course, fans and analysts are divided on this. Some believe Ian Garry is being disrespectful, pointing out that Edwards is still one of the most experienced and well-rounded fighters in the game. Others, however, see some truth in Garry's words. Leon has looked flat lately, and his performances don't reflect the same fire he once had. Only time will tell what Edwards decides to do next, but one thing is clear: the next move he makes will define the final chapter of his career. Whether he chooses to fight on or step away, the world will be watching. Moving on to the second news, Dustin Poirier has just revealed the mouthpiece he'll be wearing for what he calls his final fight. Yes, you heard that right. Poirier is stepping into the octagon one last time, and he's doing it in classic Poirier fashion, with heart, pride, and a message that goes deeper than just fighting. Poirier is set to take on Max Holloway at UFC 318 for the BMF title, the belt reserved for the baddest, most fearless fighters in the game. And in this high-stakes, legacy-defining showdown, Dustin's mouthpiece will carry a simple but powerful message: last dance. That phrase alone says a lot. It's symbolic, it's emotional, it's a nod to everything Dustin has been through in his career. The wars, the wins, the losses, the lessons, and the evolution. This isn't just another fight for him. This is the end of an era, and he wants to make sure the world knows that he's going out on his own terms. Speaking about the meaning behind the mouthpiece, Poirier shared a powerful statement that reflects his mindset heading into this final bout. He said, "I don't care who's doing better than me. I'm not in competition with anyone else. The only rival I have is the person I was yesterday. Last year, I was different. I've grown, I've learned, I've improved. And that's what truly matters." That quote captures exactly what Dustin stands for. While many fighters get caught up comparing themselves to others, chasing belts, fame, or social media clout, Poirier has always kept it personal. His fight has never really been about the opponent across the cage. It's always been about his own journey, his growth, his values, and that's what makes this fight with Holloway even more compelling. It's not just a clash between two fan favorites. It's a battle between two warriors who have left everything in the cage every single time. Two fighters who have already fought once before, with Poirier winning that war back in 2019. Now, years later, they meet again, this time for the BMF title and for Dustin, the final chapter. Poirier's mindset going into this bout is one of peace, but also determination. He knows this is the last time he'll make the walk, the last time he'll hear the crowd roar for him, the last time he'll throw leather under the bright lights of the UFC. And he wants to go out with a message that it's not about being the best in the world, but about being the best version of yourself. As the date approaches, fans are already feeling the emotions. Win or lose, Dustin Poirier's last dance is going to be one to remember. Alex Pereira has officially immediately fired back at Magomed Ankalaev, and things are starting to heat up between the former and current champions in the light heavyweight division. After Pereira lost his title to Ankalaev back in March, many believed an immediate rematch was inevitable. After all, Poatan had defended the belt 3 times in 2024 alone and had consistently stepped up for the UFC during high-stakes moments. From main events to pay-per-view headliners, he always answered the call and usually delivered a highlight reel finish in return. But now, it seems like Pereira's efforts and loyalty are being overlooked. Since that loss to Ankalaev, there's been little to no movement on a rematch, and that's despite Ankalaev himself publicly stating shortly after the fight that he'd be open to running it back, even suggesting August as the time frame. However, this week the situation took a sharp turn. Ankalaev posted a message on social media implying that Pereira may have retired from MMA. That's right, the reigning champion went so far as to claim that Pereira isn't coming back at all. A bold statement, and one that didn't sit well with the former champ. Now, Poatan has decided to set the record straight. Speaking in a new interview with UFC Brazil, Pereira gave fans an update on his current status and made one thing absolutely clear. He's not retired. In fact, he's planning his return. He said, "We'll definitely be talking about my next fight soon. I don't have a specific date yet, but we already have an idea. I took this time off to rest because I worked hard in 2024. I think my body got tired. I had some injuries, so I decided to take it easy, more on the recovery side, and now I'm coming back. To come back the right way, firm and strong, to go after my belt again." Those words are bound to excite fans who were worried about Pereira's silence since the loss. His message is clear. He's regrouping, recharging, and planning to return at full power. That said, there are some logistical challenges. The UFC already has headliners lined up for UFC 317, 318, and 319, so a summer return seems unlikely, at least if we're talking about a Pereira versus Ankalaev rematch. As of now, UFC 320 is without a major theme or identity, especially since it's no longer being promoted as this year's Noche UFC event. With all that considered, we could be looking at a fall or winter timeline for Pereira's return, possibly UFC 321 or beyond. Whether it's a direct rematch with Ankalaev or a title eliminator, one thing's for sure: Poatan isn't done. He's just getting started on his path to reclaim gold. Sean O'Malley is just days away from stepping back into the octagon for his highly anticipated rematch with Merab Dvalishvili. But even with his own fight on the horizon, the Shagai Show is already hyped for another massive showdown set to headline the UFC's international fight card later this month: Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. The featherweight clash is already generating a ton of buzz, with fans and fighters alike eager to see how the undefeated Spanish-Georgian striker fares against one of the most dangerous submission specialists in UFC history, and Sean O'Malley is no exception. In a recent interview with Shaw MMA, Sean broke down his thoughts on the matchup, and it's clear even he is having a hard time making a call. "That's one where your heart's telling you, you know, Charles, and your brain's telling you, Ilia," Sean said with a laugh. "It's just, that one's a coin flip. You can't count Charles out. Ilia is on an absolute tear. You know, Charles does get hit and Ilia cracks. That fight I am very excited for." And who could blame him? Topuria has looked unstoppable in his recent performances, showing off explosive striking, fast hands, and elite level timing. He's been calling for a title shot for a while now, and with this fight, he gets a chance to prove he belongs at the top of the featherweight food chain. But on the other side stands Charles Oliveira, the former lightweight champion who's been through wars and always finds a way to bounce back. He holds the UFC record for most submissions in company history and has finished fighters like Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and Michael Chandler. His striking has also evolved massively, making him a real threat on the feet, even if his chin and defense have been questioned in past fights. Ahead of the bout, both men seem to be locked in. Ilia recently shared a video on social media showing himself drilling submissions, a possible sign that he's preparing for every scenario, even on the ground where Charles is most dangerous. Alongside the clip, he posted a caption that read, "What do you prefer, submitting him or knocking him out?" Not to be outdone, Charles posted footage from one of his leg day workouts, reminding fans that he's grinding hard and looking stronger than ever. With less than a month to go, both fighters are turning up the intensity intensity. This is more than just a fight, it's a battle for legacy, for gold, and possibly even fight of the year. With O'Malley focused on Merab this weekend, he'll soon get to join the rest of us in watching Topuria versus Oliveira unfold. A fight where anything can happen and no one is safe. Alexander Volkanovski has officially confirmed the UFC rumors that have been swirling around for the past couple of weeks. The former featherweight champion finally spoke out during an interview with Main Event TV, putting all the speculation to rest and giving fans something to get excited about. For those who might have missed the chatter online, the big rumor was that Volkanovski and Yair Rodriguez were being lined up to headline UFC 320, which was originally planned to take place in Mexico. The fight would have marked a major return for both fighters, especially Volk, who is coming off a tough loss and looking to bounce back in a big way. But in a surprise twist, this past weekend the UFC made a major announcement. They're scrapping the NOS UFC event entirely. What was supposed to be a blockbuster PPV in Mexico will now be just a fight night card in San Antonio, Texas. That change sparked even more confusion as fans wondered whether the Volkanovski versus Yair bout would still happen, and if so, where and when. Now, Volk himself is here to set the record straight. During his interview, he had this to say: "It's pretty clear that it wasn't going to be Mozar. I thought he would be next because he's undefeated, but Yair's name has popped up. There's no date locked in right now, but the rumors you're all hearing are pretty much true." So there you have it, straight from the man himself. The fight with Yair is being discussed, and it looks like the UFC is actively working to make it happen. But with the NOS UFC card scrapped and the new fight night location set, the question now is, when and where will they book this? For Volkanovski, it would be a chance to re-establish himself as one of the best in the world after a difficult stretch. He's long been considered one of the most dominant champions in featherweight history, with massive wins over Max Holloway, Brian Ortega, and the Korean Zombie. But after back-to-back losses, including a brutal knockout defeat, Volk is looking to rebuild, and he's doing it the hard way by fighting top contenders. As for Yair Rodriguez, this is a huge opportunity for redemption. He's known for his wild striking and highlight reel finishes, but he came up short in his own title run against Volkanovski in the past. A rematch would give him the chance to settle the score and prove he belongs at the very top of the division. The matchup is explosive on paper, high-level striking, cardio, experience, and a lot on the line for both men. Fans have already started buzzing about the possibilities, and the hype will only grow once a date and location are finalized. So, are you excited about the possibility of Volkanovski versus Yair 2? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this one's looking like a fireworks fight in the making. Ilia Topuria has finally shared his thoughts on who he might face in his first title defense, and things are starting to get interesting as we head into the highly anticipated main event at UFC 317, where Ilia is set to take on Charles Oliveira for the lightweight championship. Fans are already speculating about what comes next. If Ilia successfully defends his belt, in a recent interview, Topuria was asked a pretty straightforward question. If you beat Charles Oliveira on June 28th, who do you think is next? Will it be Paddy Pimblett or Arman Tsarukyan? Now, if you followed Ilia for a while, you know he doesn't shy away from answering questions directly, but this time, his response was more reserved and calculated. He said, "I have no idea, honestly. I will be there on the 28th of June. First it was going to be Islam, then it was Charles. If Charles falls, it would be Arman. The result for everyone will be the same. I'm going to win." Let's break that down. Originally, the UFC wanted to book Islam Makhachev against Topuria in a champ versus champ style showdown, but for various reasons, that fight didn't materialize. Then came Charles Oliveira, a former champ, submission king, and one of the most dangerous finishers in the division. That fight is now officially headlining UFC 317, and the winner will walk out with the undisputed lightweight title. But what about after that? On one side of the conversation, you've got Paddy Pimblett, one of the UFC's most polarizing and popular fighters. With his massive fan base and big personality, a fight between Paddy and Ilia would be guaranteed fireworks in terms of hype, even if most fans think it's a mismatch skill-wise. Topuria and Paddy have a heated rivalry going back years, with backstage altercations and social media jabs. A title fight between them would sell, no doubt. But the question remains, has Paddy earned it? On the other hand, you have Arman Tsarukyan, a fighter who many believe is the most deserving contender in the the division right now. Arman's recent performances have been dominant, and he's shown that he's a serious threat to anyone at 155 pounds. If Charles loses, then Arman is clearly next in line, and that's something even Ilia acknowledges in his response. Still, Ilia isn't looking past Oliveira just yet. He knows that beating a guy like Charles isn't easy, but what makes Ilia so dangerous is his confidence, or as some would say, certainty. He doesn't seem to care who the UFC puts in front of him, Paddy, Arman, Islam, or anyone else. In his mind, the outcome is already written. He's going to win, so whether it's a fan-fueled clash with Paddy or a high-stakes showdown with Tsarukyan, one thing's for sure. If Ilia gets through Charles Oliveira, the lightweight division is in for a wild ride. Who do you want to see Ilia fight next? Let us know down in the comments.